So it's basically Ryan's idea. He came to me with this, what I thought was a really creative idea. And he had actually picked most of the photographers by the time he came from it to me. So, you know, we went over it, and the first day I talked with him, we finalized the deal and decided what we were going to do. I had one condition. I'd been thinking about an iPhone show, but it was basically a show where the photographers just hold their iPhones and people walk by them, and so you know we work both things in together. But Ryan is basically the brains behind this deal.
What was it about the iPhone that challenged your interest and made you think that this is a great creative tool?
Well, the thing about the iPhone is I have it on me in situations that I wouldn't necessarily have one of my regular cameras to shoot with. So I find myself capturing things that weren't being captured before because I'm in predicaments that weren't being captured, you know. And that really is the genesis of this. Basically, you know, it's not the camera, it's not anything to do with the equipment. It has to do with the shot being captured. And having this on your person at all times really opens the door to new creativity.
Yeah, and I think the real important thing is that it's instantaneous. It's even quicker than a Polaroid. You take the picture, it's right there. You go, oh, do you like it? No, delete.
Exactly. You're editing as you go.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't until Kodak came out and Eastman Kodak's patented the roll film process. Made allowance for the use of these small, inexpensive cameras that people could take with them anywhere. That was a really new development in the field of photography, a technological development, a huge one. It was about 100 years ago.
David, was that kind of a no-fuss thing where they sent the film back to Kodak?
No fuss, yes.
Kind of like...
And yet,
yeah.
it has real similar to using an iPhone because the very nature of its simplicity adds a level of complexity to it that you don't consider.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of this zen quality to it when we're shooting with the iPhone, of how the precision has to be even greater, perhaps even a greater knowledge of how light works and how to control that in an automatic exposure. So something like 70% of people in the United States today, 70% of photography done in the United States today, a recent poll said was done with a cell phone camera. But I think the iPhone's different because of the use of apps and also because they, if anything, they legitimized for the first time the use of a camera in a device, a cell phone device, by making it very simple to get to the device alone. We don't often think about that.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, in the older cameras, of course, that was scoffed at. Sanyo in the United States came out with the first one, I believe, of putting a cell phone, a camera in a cell phone. I mean, how ridiculous is that?
Mm-hmm.
All of this is relatively new, but I think that what it's done for bringing us those moments that we're talking about is the most significant development in photography since the roll film invention. Because that brought moments and it showed that the camera broke from the studio walls and out into, you know, John Q. Public's life and the parks and their homes and schools. It was the use of apps that took it to a new level and gave different ways to use this device for creative expression.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, well, you know, and a lot of them aren't just WYSIWYG. I mean, well, like Hipstamatic, there's like various combinations that you could come up with to think, well, I want it to look just like this, you know. Well, there's different lenses with different film stocks in there, and each one can make a different look to it. So you are making conscious decisions when you're using it. It doesn't matter about the app. It's really about what's there. You know,
it's the content.
It's content, right? You know,
and you're absolutely correct. It bugs me too. That's actually a hindrance in these apps. Because you don't want to fall into that. It's real easy to do.
Oh yeah.
Because you know, it just shoots too cool. It shoots cool photos. And I kind of hate that whole notion that, oh, hey, let's go out and shoot cool photos. It's not about the cool photos though.
Mm-hmm.
That can be used as a way to express yourself creatively within the confines of the app that you're using, but it is about content.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you know, when you go past that obvious Photoshop filter that, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the lens flare. You don't see
Photoshop
those
filter?
anymore. You know?
Photoshop filter, like
Well,
lens flare.
Lens flare was like when Photoshop came out with the lens flare. You saw it in everything, and people got so sick of it. It's like, oh man, that's cheap. It turned everything cheesy.
Well, there's one app called the Camera Bag.
Mhm.
Camera Bag divides stuff up mostly into, they have a 1962 filter that goes
Right.
on that you shoot with. Then they have a 74. Now the 62 is that really dark black and white high contrasty stuff you used to see like in Life magazine, what have you.
Yeah.
You know, really bold. It's really blown out highlights. And like 74 is Kodak Instamatic. You know.
Mhm.
But it's amazing what the conversation has just come to. We're talking about the physical properties of what you can do, not the conceptual things about
Correct.
what you can do with it. And that's where the problem lies.
Right. But I suspect one day there'll be some device and it'll have some more filter that'll have the iPhone filter. Oh, this will make it look like the old iPhone filter.
Yeah.
But how did you go about accumulating and selecting work for the exhibit?
Well, I kind of like fell into it. Like I married a photo producer for fashion photography. So
Just so you could do the show.
well, just so I could do this. And
There's hope for me here.
I've been able- I've been around a lot of professional photographers, you know, in the last several years, and there's kind of a knit community within that, and it just started like once the idea came, you know, I talked to a couple of photographers, and most everybody I've talked to are like, yeah, man, I'm shooting with it all the time. I have yet really to find a photographer who has an iPhone that's not using it as one of their devices. Allison V. Smith, who's in the show, she's a really well-known photographer. Almost all the pictures I see her post are from her iPhone. It's become something that's another tool in the kit for almost all the photographers I know.
Is there an occasion when you would have both cameras with you that you would use the iPhone?
Absolutely.
Just about to say that. In fact, it's very common for me to, literally it's many times that I've had a 5D Mark II shooting a 21.1 megapixel image, and I'll pull the iPhone out and shoot with that instead.
It's kind of a feeling.
Yeah, it's a feeling. But I want to avoid that whole kind of what's the word we're looking for? Someone said schmaltzy, this sort of over cool kind of image.
Mhm.
It's really not about that though. For me, I think it's a challenge. I love the challenge the iPhone gives me in taking photographs, because you have to get the moment right. You miss the moment. Well, depending upon which app you're using, the one I use, Instamatic, it could be with the old 3G I'm using. Could be a minute and a half between photographs.
I know there's going to be a performance art piece on opening night. What's that going to be about?
That basically is well, Bert's original idea was thinking for the iPhone used for the show, and we kind of incorporated that. I don't know if you want to talk about
Sure.
that.
What we're going to do is line up the photographers in the small gallery to the side, the Albach gallery, and darken it. And then each photographer standing maybe 5 or 8 feet apart will be able to do a piece on their iPhone while the people at the opening can stroll by. So they can do anything they want. I mean, it could be video, it could be nothing, it could be just a block. They can do whatever they want. And I'm curious to see what kind of pieces we get out of this. Because I think this could be really creative. There's no holds barred. You can do whatever you want. When's the opening?
It's Friday the 24th. It was 7 to 9 is the opening, but we're also going to have an opening on Saturday as part of
Repeat
Dotto.
performance.
Yeah.